You see those headlines all the time, right? New study links this food to that disease. But have you ever wondered how scientists actually figure that stuff out? Well, a lot of the time it comes down to two key tools in their toolkit: cohort studies and case control studies. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and break down how they work, what makes them so different, and how you can become a smarter reader of the next health story that pops up in your feed. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll set the stage with the big problem researchers face. Then, we'll dive into our two main strategies, one that looks to the past and one that looks to the future. After that, we'll put them side by side to see how they stack up. And we'll finish up with why this all really matters to you. Okay, so imagine this. A new health issue pops up out of nowhere. Maybe it's a weird cluster of illnesses in a small town. For the scientists on the ground, the epidemiologists, the number one question is always, what's causing this? I mean, really think about that. Finding that one single cause. It's like finding a needle in a global haystack. But you have to find it, because that's the first step to stopping it. So where on earth do you even begin? Well, that big question leads to a massive fork in the road. Do you act like a detective? Show up after the crime has been committed and work your way backward to find clues? Or do you take a totally different approach? Do you start with a healthy population and just watch them moving forward in time to see who gets sick? This one choice is what separates our two powerful study designs. Let's start with that detective work. This is the case control study, and its real power, it's basically a time machine that lets you look for clues in the past. The whole idea is right there in the name. You start with cases. These are the people who right now already have the disease you're studying. Then you find a group of controls, people who are really similar to your cases in age, gender, location, whatever, but they don't have the disease. And the key part is that everything is retrospective. You're looking backward. The logic is actually pretty straightforward. Step 1, you find your patients, the people who are already sick. Step 2, you find your healthy comparison group. And step 3, you ask both groups a ton of questions about their past. Did you work here? Did you eat this? Were you exposed to that? You're hunting for that one difference in their history that could explain why one group got sick and the other one stayed healthy. Now, check this out. This is data from a real classic study. Just look at the numbers. In the non-smoker group, 0 cigarettes, you have way more healthy controls than you have lung cancer cases. Makes sense. But as you go down the table, look at that last row. The really heavy smokers, 25 plus cigarettes a day. Suddenly, the script is flipped. You have way more cases, 302, than controls, 196. That is a massive red flag for researchers. It's a huge clue pointing right at smoking. But, and this is a really big but, here's the catch. This quote nails it. The single hardest part of a case control study is picking the right controls. If your healthy group isn't truly a good comparison, your whole study can get thrown off. Like, what if you pick your controls from a hospital? Well, maybe they're there for heart disease, which is also linked to smoking. Your comparison would be totally skewed, and you might miss the real connection. So that problem of finding the perfect control group is a huge headache. What if you could design a study that just avoids that problem entirely? Well, you can. And that brings us to our second approach, looking forwards with a cohort study. It's a totally different way of building evidence. A cohort study completely flips the script. You start with a big group of people. That's your cohort. And here's the key. They are all healthy when the study begins. You figure out who's been exposed to something you're curious about, say smoking, and who hasn't. Then you just wait. You follow them through time to see who eventually develops the disease. It's all prospective. It's all about looking forward. The process here is just as logical. It's just going in the opposite direction. 1, you get your group of healthy people and you sort them. Exposed, unexposed. That's your starting line. 2, you follow them. Sometimes for months, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades. And 3, you just count. You count the number of new cases of the disease that pop up in each of the two groups. Let's look at an example. So we start with 3,000 smokers and 5,000 non-smokers, all healthy. We follow them. At the end, 84 smokers have developed heart disease and 87 non-smokers have. Now, your first instinct might be to say 84 and 87, that's basically the same number. But wait, the group sizes are totally different. We have to look at the rate. For smokers, that's 84 out of 3,000. For non-smokers, it's 87 out of a much bigger group, 5,000. When you calculate that, the smokers' rate is way higher. And that difference is the whole story. And this right here is the superpower of a cohort study. Because you're tracking people over time and counting the new cases yourself, you can calculate something called relative risk. You can actually say with confidence how much more likely one group is to get sick than the other. In this case, when you do the math, smokers were 1.61 times more likely to develop heart disease. That's not an estimate. That is a direct measurement of risk. It's incredibly powerful. Okay, so we have our backward-looking detective, the case control study, and our forward-looking watchtower, the cohort study. Now let's put them side by side and really break down the differences. This chart really sums it all up. Your starting point, case control starts with sick people, cohort starts with an exposure. The direction, case control looks back, cohort looks forward. This makes case control fantastic for rare diseases because you can go out and find the few people who have it. Cohort studies, on the other hand, are great for studying rare exposures. Now, what about the main challenges? For case control, it's finding good controls and something called recall bias. I mean, can you accurately remember what you ate 10 years ago? Probably not perfectly. For cohort studies, the biggest enemies are time and money. They are incredibly expensive and take forever. And finally, that temporal link, proving the exposure came before the disease. In a cohort study, that's automatic. You know it did. In a case control study, it can be a lot trickier to prove. So, why have we spent all this time geeking out on study design? Because once you understand the playbook the scientists are using, you have the power to look at a headline and really understand the evidence behind it. Let's wrap this up. Think of it this way. Case control studies are the sprinters. They are fast, they are efficient, and they're perfect for getting a quick answer, especially when a disease is rare. Cohort studies are the marathon runners. They take a ton of time, a ton of money, but they give you that rock-solid timeline and let you calculate the true absolute risk. But here's the most important takeaway of all. Neither one is better. They are just different tools for different jobs, and researchers pick the right one for the question they're trying to answer. So the next time you're scrolling and you see a headline that says, this supplement is linked to whatever, your brain will have a new tool. You'll be able to stop and ask, wait a minute, how did they figure that out? Was this a case control study where they looked backwards? Or was it a cohort study where they followed people forwards? Just asking that one question makes you a much, much smarter consumer of science.